Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at supermicrocomputer. It is time for another update, and on this chart at the moment we are still exploring the idea of a potential impulse to be forming, where we would still need to form here a fifth wave to the upside to be able to consider this a 5-wave move, an impulse within this wave tree. And in this interpretation, we also need, on top of that, to be tracking this initial movement to the upside as a series of 1-2 setups, and then, we would have here another 1-2, where this would be forming a larger wave tree to the upside. Now, there are a couple of problems within this interpretation, and it is not necessarily the most likely scenario, because if it were, I would have already liked to be in the fifth wave to the upside right now. And it is not impossible, it is technically in play that we are in the fifth wave to the upside, but it is not a high probability interpretation due to the fact that we have only formed a 3-wave move to the upside since the local low within this wave 4 correction. Now, another interpretation that could work out still just as fine is one where we would form a triangle within this wave 4. In that case, it wouldn't be a problem in terms of proportions that we only had here such a small wave 2 correction and we get a much larger wave 4. But if we had already bottomed within the wave 4, it would be playing out quite nicely. And we could be tracking technically a larger ending diagonal within the wave 5, but again, it is not a high probability interpretation that would allow us to be looking for a high impact, a high probability trade setup within this area. We don't have a high probability 1-2 setup to be tracking in such an area. Now, with that said, internally we have been tracking a few scenarios where, again, the wave 4 could have bottomed, but we also have here the orange interpretation where we are tracking an A wave down instead, here a potential wave B top, and then a C wave that would be expected to unfold here to the downside. Now, within this wave C, I would like to see a 5-wave structure, and we are on our way in forming such a pattern where, right now it could actually still work out as an impulse as well, where this would be a 1-2 setup, and we would be tracking here a third wave to be unfolding right now. And then we do have the green scenario, which would actually allow and focus on a reset of this larger wave B correction in orange. This wouldn't necessarily be outside of the other interpretations, the orange scenario or the white interpretation, because we would still be looking for another high, but then likely we are expecting to form a larger significant wave B top, and then we would still be tracking a potential wave C to the downside. But for such a scenario, we need to break here above the previous wave B top. Now, in this interpretation in green, we are looking here at the WXY pattern, where right now we only need to complete the wave B and form a wave C to the upside to complete such a structure and basically form here the reset within the wave B. But again, it would be necessary to break above the previous top that has already formed in this area at the $66 level. Now, in the wave Y, we have already completed the wave A, clearly, since we have mentioned that we only need to complete here the wave B and the wave C, and we have been tracking this correction in the wave B with a particular area of support allowed. This has not been something we have been doing on any other chart, and it has been employed particularly here due to the complex nature of this correction. And previously we have managed to retrace quite deeply into these areas of resistance. For example, once here we have pushed even beyond the 88.7% retracement if we actually want to track such an idea, and we can see here we have broken the 88.7% retracement and we still managed to follow through to the downside afterwards. Now, this could be just part of a correction of a larger uptrend forming where we would end up breaking this area of resistance once again, and even the previous top that has formed, it is very much in play. But this also happened here on a smaller time frame in this internal ABC movement that we are tracking, where we have managed to push perfectly into the 88.7% retracement before continuing our larger downtrend. And this is why we are also allowing here the 88.7% retracement in the case of this correction in the wave B in green. And I would actually like to see here a break below the beginning of this wave A for a more clear signal that this structure in the wave Y is not going to play out in the end, which is around the $27.6 level. But yeah, right now we are probably still preferring another low, as in the previous video we were looking for a couple of ideas, and in both scenarios, in both orange and green, we were looking with high likelihood for another low. Now we were tracking a potential more direct breakout here, but only within an ABC structure internally, where we have managed to push into the 23.6% retracement before reversing to the downside. And again, we even failed here to create a larger 5-wave move to the upside. This could have been a 1, 2, 3, which could have formed then a 4th, then a 5th. Yeah, similar with what we have been tracking on many other charts, an initial leading diagonal, but clearly this has failed. And while we didn't manage to form a new low just yet, it is rather likely that we will be completing here a larger pattern, either in the green scenario where we would have here a 4th and a 5th. This would actually be expected since we were tracking a larger 5-wave move to the downside, or this could also be in the orange interpretation where we would be instead tracking a larger possible impulse to be forming, where this would be a 1, 2, 1, 2, a 3rd wave down, 4th wave up, and then we would need still a few 4, 5 patterns, a couple, to actually complete this overall structure in a much larger wave tree to the downside. Now, with that said, we need to be keeping a close eye on the structure that is indeed developing within this area, because again, in the orange interpretation we are tracking a potential impulse, and in such a structure we would expect to form a 5-wave move to the downside. Now, I cannot tell you just yet what type of structure we seem to be forming. It still is very much in between scenarios in terms of the actual movement, the actual pattern that has been forming in this area, and also it is on a very small time frame, so I won't be going too much into it. I also wanted to mention that here the area of resistance that we have been tracking for the orange scenario applies for the wave 4 in green, only that in the green scenario we also allow here the 61.8% retracement at the $43.8 level instead, since in the green interpretation we are tracking a larger diagonal pattern to be forming to the downside. We can allow a deeper retracement, but yeah, the area of resistance would start at the same level as the orange area of resistance. It is only not there for more visible interpretation. Yeah, we would still need to break here above the $43.8 level for a signal that this structure has indeed formed a more likely bottom. But again, right now this movement to the upside seems to have been already completed. We have an ABC structure. We don't need any additional highs, as we also pushed into the area of resistance where we got rejected, and yeah, quite possibly we are forming here a 50 to the downside, but at the moment it is on a small time frame. It could still extend into a larger ABC pattern. We aren't taking any bets, but we are also not looking for any trade setups in this area in this time frame. Now, if you are very much interested from a larger time frame perspective, there is this potential AB movement where, yeah, likely we would expect a larger retracement anyway, but it is not a very high probability interpretation, as it is not a 1-2 setup. Yeah, as I was making this extremely clear along the videos that we have made on this chart, that there is no high probability trade setup to be tracked right now. That's why I was looking here for a potential 5-wave move to the upside, but not even this is too reliable, where I could be tracking it as a 5-wave move, but I could also consider it just a simple ABC structure that has formed and doesn't have any business being tracked with the high probabilities of a normal 1-2 setup, where we could easily break and invalidate this pattern. And right now I would enjoy to be able to provide you more clarity, but this is also a signal that the fact that this chart is such a mess is a signal from an Elliott wave perspective that we should stay away and be patient for a more clear structure to be unfolding. Yeah, there isn't necessarily a high probability trade setup. This is available to you if you want at all costs to get a position and look for a wave C to the upside, but it is not a high probability interpretation in my opinion. But yeah, for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.